Aloha, it's CreativeNameToStandOut again with another battle report. This time bringing you a game between my Pyre Legion and an opponent's Stormcast Eternals with some Sylvaneth allies. We will be playing the scenario The Ritual that's coming out of the first rulebook that came out in the Age of Sigmar. We will have both a Ritualist, which will be the Pyre Legion, and a Disruptor, which will be the Allies of Order. The goal of the Ritualist is to get off the ritual. That means each turn I'll roll a dice and add +1 for each friendly wizard within 12 inches of the artifact, while also subtracting 1 from that dice roll for every enemy wizard within 36 inches of that artifact. The roll, of course, can't go under 1 and can't go above 6. As soon as this total reaches 20, the Ritualist will win. The only way for the Disruptor to stop this is to destroy the artifact, and that consists of him getting into base contact with the magical artifact and then using its special scenario command ability that will essentially destroy that. And we'll take a look at the special scenario command abilities now. In this scenario, the Disruptor receives the command ability Shatter the Artifact. When his general is within 3 inches of the artifact, he can have this command ability work, and on a 2 or better, he shatters the artifact and secures a major victory. The Ritual's command ability is Destroy at all costs, which will allow D3 units within 12 inches of the general to add 1 to all their hit rolls, but subtracting 1 from all their save rolls. Here we see an overview of our deployment, and you can see the many pieces of terrain that we're using with magical rules. We still haven't gotten the habit of using magical rules for all the terrain pieces. I think that's a little much. We're only going to kind of randomize or judge what's appropriate to be magical rather than making everything magical. But otherwise, this is what deployment looks like. My left flank is very strong. It's chosen. He's going to have 1 unit of Liberators. They'll be deep striking in. If they really only have a choice of deep strike on the left. As you can see on the right, I've created a lot of no-go zones for him. So that way, when they come in, they're going against a unit that they're kind of mismatched against. Had I not done that, they could easily have matched up against my regular warriors on the right, and they'd have a pretty good chance. I'd say we're even there, but they'd have a pretty good chance of probably walking through them. So that's my defensive strategy here, is to kill off the right flank as an opportunity for him and just have him try to engage my left flank where I have my stronger combat unit. So the Stormcast Eternals and the Sylvaneth allies get the first turn, and it's just a general advance. He tries to cast a magical spell at me. I think it's called Awakening the Woods, and also uses a shooting attack against my dogs, but pretty much just has some bad luck there. As I expect to be in combat this coming turn, I decide to cast Mystic Shield with my Kekus the Pyromancer on my Chosen to give them a +1 to their armor save. I then summon some Flamers with my Demon Prince. My opponent is not in range yet to stop me from doing that, so get a unit of free Flamers. And they're going to get in position real quick to hopefully put some wounds on the Tree Lord. Off frame here, we have my Chosen moving towards the Liberators and my Wolves moving towards the Dryads. In the shooting phase, as you can see, that the Flamers did put 5 wounds onto the Tree Lord Ancient, and that's going to move them way to the top of the must-kill list for my opponent. We go into combat, and I'm thinking about Dryads in 8th edition terms still. They are so much more resilient and way better in combat now. I was under the mistaken idea that I could shove these wolves down them and do, some even amount of wounds to each other. I'd lose my wolves, but I'd really put a dent in these Dryads. When I find out how good they are, I decide that this is going to be a wasted turn unless I also charge my Chosen in. The idea was just to put the Chosen in the way and allow him to charge me. But seeing that I made a mistake here, I go ahead and charge both units. I start with the Chosen, and being able to do mortal wounds on a 6 is just killer, as you can see. And then he kills a lot of my wolves with me doing hardly anything in return. And then I think he ends up killing maybe a Chosen here. And that's pretty much it. I don't have to take any... Well, the wolves run away after we do some bravery tests, and I think he loses a Liberator after he does his bravery tests. In the magic phase, I choose Kekus to summon some Screamers, but unfortunately I fail that roll, and I chose him because he was out of range of the Tree Lord Ancient. I then have to pick the Demon Prince, who is in range of the Tree Lord Ancient, and I actually successfully summon him there, even though he tried to stop me. We go into the movement phase, and you can see that I'm running up my warriors to block off the Tree Lord Ancient and the Dryads from getting any closer. I also move my Flamers up to try to take care of his fastest unit, the Prosecutors. And again, the Flamers prove to be extremely deadly. I end up doing maybe 3 wounds, I don't remember, to those Prosecutors, and then they have this special rule that on a 4 or better, they do another D3 mortal wounds. So, wipe that unit out. Really good shooting from them. We then move into combat. As you can see, I'm consolidating there, and I do a lot of wounds to them, and now they're down to a single champion Liberator. So here's an overview of the board before we go into my opponent's next turn. So things are looking a little iffy for the good guys. They're going to need some help to turn this thing around into their favor to gain momentum. But they are going to get some help from that creek because the creek is mystical. On a 2 or better, those units that cross through it are going to get enscrolled weapons, which will allow them to re-roll wounds in the next combat phase. So he rolls for all his units, and they all get the enscrolled weapons except for the Retributors. They end up being befuddled and have to stay behind the creek, which is pretty bad for them because they move very slowly. They only have a 4-inch move. But you know, these other units moving up are going to be hitting me very hard. The Dracoth shoots some lightning at my Flamers and kills one and transfers a wound to the other, and we get another look at the board before we go into combats. My opponent starts off the combats with the Dryads going into my Warriors with the sword and board. The Tree Lord Ancient tries to finish off the last of the 2 Screamers, and the Dracoth of the Lord joins the battle against my Chosen. Here's another overview of the board before we resolve these combats. And my opponent starts off with the Dryads first, but despite the fact that they have the reroll of the wounds from having ensorcelled weapons, he's just unable to do a lot. He kills off one of the Warriors and puts a wound on the other. I then choose to use my Chosen next, which sees the finishing off of the Liberators, and I put 2 wounds on the Dracoth and the Lord there. Then we move over to the Tree Lord, who kills off the last 2 Screamers. That was pretty easy. I resolve my attacks against the Dryads, and since they have the boosted armor saves, since they're, I think, like 16 or more, they're a little bit difficult. I get them underneath that quota, but there's still a lot of them left. And then he goes with his Dracoth, and he really just whiffs it. I don't know if he actually kills anybody, but he can really just go off at any moment. So even though he didn't do too well this turn, you know, I can't hold out that he won't do good eventually. My first attempt to summon some horrors is thwarted by the Tree Lord Ancient, but I get another chance at it with my other wizard, and I successfully summon them. We get an overview of the board before we go into movement, and the first thing I'm going to do is move the Screamers over this combat, which will allow me to, I think, inflict 2 mortal wounds on the Dryads, so that's going to be helpful. And then I also move my Demon Prince up to get ready to help combat that Dracoth and the Lord on top. So here we go into my charges, and the Demon Prince does go into the Dracoth ultimate, you know, general on general battle here. I do have +1 to hit, but unfortunately, despite that, I only get 1 wound through. So disappointing. He then in returns kills off half my Chosen, but even worse for me, he does 6 wounds to my Demon Prince. So this guy, like I said, is a monster. I mean, sure, my opponent might whiff in 1 turn, but the next he might wipe out like 2 units if he wants to. So it's just terrible. I hate going against that guy. He strikes the fear in me. But lucky enough, there's other things going around the battlefield that are going well for me. Like here with the Screamers, they attack the Tree Lord, and since they're attacking a monster, they do D3 wounds, and that's enough to kill off this Tree Lord. So it's good to get him out of the way. We then move to the combat with the Dryads and the Warriors. As you can see here at the bottom of the page that the Warriors take an unexpected beating from the Dryads, but in return I fortunately do wipe them out. And then finally move to the Chosen, who consolidate up there and are able to outdo the Demon Prince by inflicting 1 more wound than he could have. So, you know, bittersweet, you know, bonus there. So here we go into Sylvaneth Stormcast turn 3. The Stormcast turn is going to be very short. His guys just move so slowly with 4-inch movement. He's not able to charge his Lord Relictor into the combat to help out the Lord Celestant, but really he didn't need to because he just smites all 4 of these models. Just unbelievable how strong this guy can be. So that's going to end his turn. We go into my turn because I win for the 4th time in a row in this game, the roll-off. And with that win for the turn, I go ahead and cut short the glory of that Lord Celestant on the Dracoth by casting Arcane Bolt at his face. He only had 2 wounds left, and that spell does D3 mortal wounds. So he falls dead, and I go ahead and move my units. As you can see here, this is the final turn of the game here, and my opponent decides there's just nothing he can do about it now. Even though his second command, this Lord Relictor, gets the same command abilities as the General does, and he becomes the General, actually.
he just doesn't have enough turns. If I roll a 1 next turn, when it comes to be my turn again, I'm going to win the game. And even if he wins the roll-off for the next turn, he needs, I think, 3 turns to get into position. He needs to be able to make it in combat now, probably, most likely, wipe out all those horrors, win the turn. He needs a turn to get into position to use his command ability, and then he needs a turn to be 3 inches away from the ritual marker and use the command ability. So it's not going to happen before I make those rolls. So it was a good game, but the Pyre Legion does win. So without any exaggeration, I have to definitely say, out of every game of Warhammer I've played, including 40k, that this is a very unique scenario that I've played, making it my favorite scenario I've played. Never played anything like this. I think it's kind of coming close to that Blood and Glory that we had in 8th, but this really is a fantastic scenario. I think it's a very well balanced scenario. I can definitely look at it and see where some problems may occur. I know that maybe you can say, well, why don't you just bring 5 wizards every time? That way you're always guaranteed to have a 6 for your roll on the ritual power. That might be true. You could probably do that. But if you play the game, well, first I want to point out that if you do that, you're still going to end the game at turn 4, like happened here with my 2 wizards. So I think it is a little bit of a waste if you're doing that. Also, if you're playing the game like I like to envision it, where you're bringing in X amount of scrolls each, like we'll say 12, and then you agree that out of those 12 that you have with you, you're only going to deploy 6 to 8, that if you're going to use 5 of your slots of those, 6 or 8 to put down a wizard, you're not going to be able to defend this relic very easily. So I think there can be some reason to be to hold this game accountable. Of course, I mean, if you're going to just play it cutthroat, just as written, without any sort of thought to a semblance of balance. If you're looking to break the game, you can. But if you're not looking to do that, I think there's a lot of balance in the game itself. I think that can be said about any version of game with any sort of rules. If you're looking to break it, you're going to break it. If you're looking to just have a real close competitive game, you can definitely achieve it in a scenario like this, which I think is fantastic. So again, I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I guess you can see here that I did use the summoning rules. I guess I err on the side that you can summon anything. The way I hold myself accountable and make it, I think a little bit fair for my opponent is I'm saying I'm going to summon demons. I'm going to summon whatever I can summon, but I'm going to limit to the models I actually have. And if you kill a unit, then that unit is dead. I'm not going to continually resummoning it. Every time you kill my Screamer unit, I'm not going to resummon it again. You killed it successfully. Congratulations, it's dead. If I want to have more Screamers summoned, I better have 3 units of them, not just reuse the same unit. I think that's pretty fair. Plus, I also come in mind that I think that summoning is not terribly bad because you're only going to be summoning at max the number of turns, units equal to the number of turns you're playing. Unless, of course, I guess you bring like 5 wizards or whatnot. But, again, if you're looking to break it, you're going to break it. There's just no way around it. So, anyways, that's where I think. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I side on the side that you can summon whatever. It seems kind of silly to me that you can only summon demon princes when you have demon princes on the board. That doesn't seem like that was the intent of the rule. And I'm just not going to play it like that. Unless my opponent wants to. I am open to that. If my opponent's definitely on that line of reasoning, I'm not going to argue. But if it's, whatever, or if it's up in the air, if it's on me, I'm going to play it the way I just explained it to you. So that's how it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I appreciate your likes, comments, and subscriptions. Again, I thank you guys for watching this, and I'll see you guys again. I have another one lined up, ready to go. I'll probably post it next week. See you guys later. Bye.